Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive into How to Be You by Jeffrey Marsh.
Oh, this is going to be good.
It is. We got some excerpts from this book from you guys, and
Yeah.
Jeffrey Marsh is pretty well known as a non-binary author and LGBTQ plus advocate.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
really promotes this idea of radical self-acceptance,
Yeah.
which I love.
So powerful.
Yeah.
And I think
It's interesting. What's so cool about this book is that it's got a 4.2 rating.
yeah, it seems to have resonated with a lot of people. Over
Wow.
840 reviews on Goodreads.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and it really speaks to something that I think a lot of us crave, and that is that feeling of connecting with your true self.
Yeah.
You know, who you are beneath all the layers that society kind of puts upon us.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And from what I've seen in these excerpts, Marsh doesn't just talk about the feeling of self-acceptance.
Right.
They actually give us steps to get there,
Yeah.
like tools in a toolbox.
Yeah. So it's very practical.
It is very practical.
Wow.
So today, let's unpack some of those steps.
Like, how do we handle judgment from others?
Yeah.
How do we find the courage to be ourselves even when it's scary?
Right.
And how do we build relationships that actually help us grow
Yes.
and nurture that authenticity?
I love that.
So the book starts by acknowledging something that's kind of profound, which is
Yeah.
that we're often pushed away from our authentic selves.
Yes, from such a young age, right?
Yeah.
Think about all the messages we get about how we should look, how we should act,
Oh, no.
how we should even live our lives.
Yeah.
It's like we're handed this mold to fit into.
Yeah,
And from day one, it's like getting this mold.
it's true. And so how does Marsh suggest we break free from that mold?
Well, Marsh's core message is that true happiness comes not from conformity, but from recognizing and celebrating what makes each of us unique,
Oh, I love that.
right? So those quirky interests,
Yeah.
the things that light us up,
Yeah.
even if they're not quote-unquote mainstream,
Yeah.
those are the very things that we should be embracing.
Okay, but that's easier said than done, right? How do we actually uncover that authentic self?
Yeah, so Marsh actually provides some concrete tools
Okay.
in the book.
Yeah.
So for example, there are exercises that are focused on identifying your core values,
Sure.
like what truly matters to you deep down.
Mm-hmm.
Not to your parents, not to your friends, not to society, but to you.
Yeah.
What are your core values?
Mhm.
And the book also encourages reflection on experiences that bring you genuine joy.
Okay.
Not fleeting happiness, but deep, soul-stirring joy.
Yeah.
And by exploring these areas, you start to see this clearer picture of your authentic self emerging.
It's like unearthing this hidden treasure.
Exactly.
But I imagine it takes time.
It does.
It does.
Self-discovery is a process.
Yeah.
It's not a destination.
Right.
There's no finish line to cross.
Okay.
It's an ongoing invitation to be patient and kind to yourself along the way.
And that self-compassion piece is so crucial because let's face it, peeling back those layers and confronting who we really are can be,
It's hard.
it's tough.
Yeah.
It can be really challenging.
Yeah. And speaking of tough, let's talk about judgment. Because that is something I think we all deal with, whether it's judgment from other people
Yes.
or even that voice inside our own heads.
Oh, the inner critic.
Yes.
You've hit on a universal experience.
Yeah.
And Marsh offers a perspective that can be incredibly freeing.
Okay.
And that is that judgments from others, especially harsh ones, often say more about the person doing the judging than about us.
Okay.
They might be projecting their own insecurities or anxieties onto us.
So wait, someone's negativity towards me might not even be about me at all.
Exactly.
Wow.
Understanding this can be a game changer because it allows you to detach from those judgments.
Oh, that's huge.
It doesn't mean their words don't sting,
Right.
but it gives you a different lens through which to view them,
Yeah.
right?
That's so powerful.
It is.
What about the judgments we cast upon ourselves, though?
Oh, yeah.
How do we deal with that inner critic? Marsh dives deep into the power of self-compassion here
Okay.
and offers a lot of practical techniques. One that stood out to me is the idea of a self-compassion journal.
Okay.
So imagine replacing those harsh internal judgments with words of kindness and understanding.
Yeah.
It's about becoming your own cheerleader, not your own worst enemy.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's like actively rewriting the negative scripts that we often play in our heads.
Absolutely.
What other tools does Marsh offer for dealing with judgment, both internal and external?
Well, setting boundaries is another key strategy.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that you have the right to protect yourself from negativity, whether it's from certain people or situations.
Yeah.
It might mean creating some distance,
Okay.
say no more often, or communicating your needs really clearly.
So it's about taking control of your own space both physical and emotional,
Absolutely.
and really choosing who and what you allow into that space.
100%.
It all ties back to that initial idea of breaking free from those societal molds, right?
Yeah.
Creating a space where your authentic self can actually breathe and thrive.
Yes.
But I imagine that takes courage,
It does.
especially when we're talking about facing those ingrained fears of being judged or rejected.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of courage, that's what we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Marsh offers some truly fascinating insights into understanding and overcoming those fears that often keep us from stepping into our authentic selves.
I can't wait. I'm ready.
Me too. Welcome back.
So we were talking about how creating that space for our authentic selves can require a lot of courage.
It does. It really does.
Especially when we think about all those fears that can hold us back. The fear of judgment,
Totally.
rejection, or even just not fitting in.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And Marsh really acknowledges that fear is a natural part of growth, especially when we're talking about embracing authenticity.
Yeah.
Right? Because for many of us, we've spent a lifetime trying to fit in,
Right.
to meet expectations, to not make waves. So to step outside of that comfort zone and be vulnerable enough to show our true selves,
Yeah.
that can be terrifying.
It's scary. So if fear is so natural, how do we move past it?
Right? It's easy to say, be brave.
Right. Just do it.
Right. But how do we actually do that?
Yeah. How do we put that into practice?
So instead of trying to eliminate fear altogether, Marsh offers a different approach, reframing.
Okay.
They suggest that instead of seeing fear as a weakness, we can choose to see it as a signpost, an indicator that we're on the right track.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it means we're pushing our boundaries,
Yes.
stretching ourselves, moving towards something that's truly meaningful.
Precisely.
So instead of being paralyzed by fear,
Yeah.
we can use it as a compass to guide us towards our authentic selves.
Exactly. It's about shifting our relationship with fear. Instead of letting it control us, we acknowledge it. We thank it for trying to protect us.
Okay.
Then we take a step forward anyway.
I like that. And to support us in taking those steps, Marsh highlights the importance of building resilience. Okay, resilience. That makes sense. But how do we build that inner strength, that ability to bounce back from setbacks?
Right.
Because I'm guessing this journey to authenticity
Yeah.
isn't always smooth sailing.
You're absolutely right. There will be bumps in the road.
Yeah.
And to navigate those challenges, Marsh suggests practices like mindfulness and visualization.
Mindfulness and visualization.
Okay.
Oh, those might sound a little woo-woo to some people.
They might, but they're actually grounded in solid psychology.
Okay, so break that down for me. Why are those techniques so effective, especially in this context of facing our fears and building resilience?
So mindfulness is about being present in the moment without judgment. It helps us quiet that inner critic, those swirling thoughts that often amplify our fears. By staying grounded in the present, we can face challenges with a clearer perspective.
Okay.
Visualization, on the other hand, allows us to mentally rehearse success.
Oh, interesting.
So by vividly imagining ourselves overcoming those fears, we actually start to rewire our brains,
Wow.
creating new neural pathways that make those actions feel more attainable.
So it's like we're training our minds to believe in ourselves.
Yes.
And believe in our ability to handle whatever comes our way.
Exactly.
Are there examples in the book of how these techniques play out in real life?
Absolutely. Marsh shares stories of people overcoming fears that felt insurmountable,
Like what?
like the fear of public speaking or sharing their creative work with the world. And they achieve this by starting small, taking those mini acts of bravery we talked about earlier and gradually building their confidence through practice and positive self-talk.
So we don't have to conquer our fears overnight.
Yeah.
It's those small steps, those consistent efforts that add up over time.
It's a process.
It makes the whole process feel so much more approachable.
Absolutely.
Right.
And while individual effort is key, Marsh also emphasizes the importance of support systems.
Oh, yeah.
Surrounding yourself with people who encourage and celebrate your authentic self can make all the difference.
It's like having a cheering section.
Yes.
Those people who believe in you even when you're doubting yourself.
Absolutely. And we talked about the idea of self-compassion earlier,
Yeah.
but I think it deserves a deeper dive,
Okay.
especially in the context of building resilience.
Yeah.
What are some specific ways that Marsh suggests we cultivate self-compassion?
I'm all ears.
One powerful technique Marsh suggests is treating yourself as you would treat a close friend going through a similar challenge. Would you berate them for their mistakes or their fears?
Probably not.
Or would you offer them words of comfort and encouragement?
Right, so extend that same kindness to ourselves.
Exactly. It's about silencing that inner critic and replacing it with a voice of understanding and support.
And it makes sense that self-compassion would be a key ingredient in building resilience because when we're kind to ourselves, we're better equipped to handle those challenges and setbacks.
Absolutely.
Are there other practical tips for developing self-compassion that Marsh offers?
One that stood out to me was the idea of creating a self-care toolbox.
Ooh, I like that.
So think about the activities that bring you genuine joy, relaxation, and a sense of renewal. It could be anything from taking a walk in nature to listening to your favorite music, reading a good book, spending time with loved ones. Having this ready list of these go-to activities can help you prioritize your well-being, especially during those times when you need a little extra TLC.
It's like having a first aid kit for your soul.
Yes, exactly. When those inevitable challenges arise, you have a plan in place to soothe and nourish yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
It seems like self-care is more than just bubble baths and face masks.
Yes.
It's about intentionally choosing actions that support your mental, emotional, and even spiritual well-being.
Exactly. And Marsh goes even deeper by suggesting that self-care is ultimately an act of self-love.
Okay.
It's about recognizing your inherent worth and treating yourself with the same kindness and compassion you would extend to someone you love dearly.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. When we view self-care through that lens of self-love, it becomes a much more powerful and meaningful practice. And when we truly love and value ourselves, it becomes easier to set those boundaries, navigate those difficult situations, and embrace our authentic selves. But speaking of authentic selves,
Yeah?
I'm curious about how Marsh addresses the concept of finding one's purpose.
Oh, good question.
Is that part of this whole equation?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Marsh suggests that connecting with your purpose is a key element in living authentically. But they also acknowledge that that word purpose can feel loaded for some.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right? Not everyone has this clear-cut life mission
Right.
or a neatly defined career path that just screams purpose.
So how does Marsh approach finding purpose if it's not always so straightforward?
Right. So Marsh encourages us to think about purpose not necessarily as this one grand overarching goal, but rather as a way of being in the world.
Okay.
It's about identifying those activities, those passions, those ways of expressing ourselves that truly light us up, that tap into our unique gifts and talents, and then finding ways to weave those into our lives.
So it's not necessarily about finding the answer,
No.
but it's about paying attention to those sparks of joy, those things that make us feel truly alive, and then creating more space for those in our everyday experiences.
Exactly. It's about aligning our actions with our values, with those things that bring us a sense of meaning and fulfillment.
It takes the pressure off of having to have it all figured out.
Absolutely.
And it invites us to simply explore, experiment, and allow our purpose to unfold organically as we continue to learn and grow.
Yes. It's about embracing the journey, not just the destination.
And as we continue on this journey of self-discovery and authenticity,
Yeah.
there are other aspects to consider,
Yes.
like the role of relationships and community in supporting our growth.
That's a good one.
That's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into how to be you.
I'm excited for this part.
Me too. We've covered so much ground already.
I know, right?
From embracing our unique selves
Yes.
to facing our fears,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with our purpose.
So good.
Now, I'm curious to explore how relationships and community fit into this whole picture of authentic living. You hinted at this earlier.
I did. It's a big one.
Yeah. How crucial is this?
It's huge. Marsh really emphasizes that genuine connections are essential
Okay.
for personal growth and fulfillment. It's not just about having a lot of friends or acquaintances.
Right.
It's about surrounding yourself with people who truly see and appreciate you for who you are, quirks and all.
That makes sense. We've talked about how much courage it takes to be vulnerable and to show our authentic selves to the world.
Yeah,
So I imagine having that supportive network.
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it makes it feel a little safer.
It does.
But how do we actually cultivate those kinds of deep, authentic connections? Does Marsh give us any guidance on that?
Absolutely. One of the key ingredients Marsh highlights is open communication.
Mm.
It's about feeling safe to express your thoughts and feelings honestly, knowing that you'll be met with empathy and understanding rather than judgment.
Right?
Think about the people in your life who make you feel comfortable being your true self.
Yeah.
Those who listen without interrupting or offering unsolicited advice.
Yeah, those are the good ones.
Those are the relationships that nurture authenticity.
It makes me think about the power of really listening to someone,
Yes.
not just waiting for your turn to speak, but truly hearing what they're saying and trying to understand their perspective. I'm guessing that kind of deep listening plays a big role in building these kinds of connections.
You're spot on, Marsh actually dives deep into the practice of active listening,
Okay.
suggesting that it goes beyond simply hearing words. It's about paying attention to nonverbal cues,
Mm-hmm.
reflecting back what you're hearing to ensure understanding, and asking clarifying questions that show genuine interest. When we feel truly heard and understood, it creates this foundation of trust and respect, which are essential for any authentic relationship.
It creates that sense of safety,
It does.
right? Where you feel like you can let your guard down and really be yourself without that fear of rejection.
100%. And beyond active listening,
Yeah.
Marsh emphasizes the importance of empathy.
Okay.
So it's about going beyond just understanding someone's perspective to actually feeling what they're feeling,
Okay.
connecting with them on an emotional level.
Oh, wow.
It's that sense of shared humanity that deepens our bonds and allows us to relate to each other more authentically.
And it makes me realize that those authentic connections aren't just good for our own individual well-being.
Right.
They actually contribute to a more compassionate and accepting world overall.
That's a profound insight.
Is it?
It is.
Yeah.
Those one-on-one connections create this ripple effect.
Oh, like that.
The more we practice empathy and understanding in our personal relationships,
Yeah.
the more likely we are to extend that same kindness and compassion to others outside of our immediate circle.
It's like a chain reaction of authenticity.
I love it.
One person's courage to be themselves gives permission to others to do the same.
Absolutely.
And that can ultimately lead to a more inclusive and accepting society.
And that sense of inclusivity is further nurtured by this concept of community,
Okay.
which Marsh sees as kind of an extension of those authentic relationships.
Okay.
They believe that supportive communities play a crucial role in fostering authenticity, providing that sense of belonging and validation that can be incredibly empowering.
Community. Okay. I'm intrigued. What kind of communities does Marsh have in mind here?
It could be any group where you feel a sense of connection and shared values,
Yeah.
where your unique qualities are celebrated rather than judged.
Okay.
It might be a group of friends who share your passions, a local LGBTQ plus center, a spiritual community, an online forum of like-minded individuals, even a book club where you feel comfortable sharing your thoughts and perspectives openly. The key is finding those spaces where you can truly be yourself without fear of rejection.
So it sounds like these communities not only provide that sense of belonging,
Yes.
but they also offer these opportunities for growth and learning.
Absolutely.
Like we can learn from each other's experiences,
Yes.
challenge each other's perspectives,
Totally.
support each other through those ups and downs of life.
It's like having a built-in support system.
Right. And Marsh suggests that being part of a supportive community can actually empower you to be more authentically you
Yes.
in the wider world.
Exactly. When you feel that sense of belonging and acceptance within a group,
Yeah.
it gives you the confidence to step outside of your comfort zone and share your unique gifts with others.
It's like having a home base,
Yes.
a safe haven where you can recharge and then gather the strength to go out and make your mark on the world.
I love that.
Yeah.
And speaking of making a mark on the world, Marsh also explores the role of activism.
Okay. Activism. Now I'm curious, how does that connect to this idea of being your true self?
Well, Marsh believes that being your true self often involves speaking up for what you believe in,
Okay.
especially when it comes to social justice issues. It's about aligning your actions with your values, not just in your personal life, but also in the wider world.
So it's about recognizing that authenticity is not just about self-expression.
Right.
It's also about taking action to create a world that reflects your values.
Exactly. And Marsh actually sees activism as an extension of self-love.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect,
Yeah.
and then taking action to create a world that reflects those values. It's about using your voice and your influence, however big or small, to make a positive difference.
It's powerful to think about activism not as this grand heroic act,
Right.
but as a natural extension of being true to yourself and your values.
Absolutely. And Marsh emphasizes that activism doesn't have to be about grand gestures or dramatic protests.
Okay.
It can start with small actions in your everyday life.
Like-
It could be something as simple as speaking up when you witness injustice, educating yourself about social issues, supporting organizations that are working for positive change, or using your platform, whether it's social media or just your personal conversations, to spread awareness.
So finding those small ways to make a difference, to contribute to a more just and compassionate world,
Yes.
even if it's just in our own little corner of the universe.
Exactly. And those seemingly small acts can have a ripple effect, inspiring others to do the same. It's about creating this chain reaction of kindness, compassion, and courage.
Wow. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive into how to be you. It's been incredible exploring all these different facets of self-discovery and authentic living. Any final takeaways you want to leave our listeners with?
I think one of the most powerful messages in this book is that the journey of being you is an ongoing adventure.
I like that.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of self-acceptance.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the process of growth and evolution. And that journey is a lot more enjoyable when we have supportive relationships, a sense of community, and the courage to use our voices for good.
Well said. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into how to be you. We hope this exploration has sparked some new insights and inspired you to continue on your own unique path of authenticity.
Absolutely.
Remember, the world needs your unique gifts. So go out there and be you.